What's up, everybody? It's JT Sports back to you guys with another video. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the impact players for the Pittsburgh Steelers going into the 2019 NFL season. And before I begin, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. I upload NFL videos and NFL content daily. Also, be sure to hit that bell icon so you never miss a video. Now, let's get into it. So, the Pittsburgh Steelers, they lost Antonio Brown. They traded him to the Oakland Raiders. Le'Veon Bell, they finally let him walk away in free agency. And I think the Pittsburgh Steelers, me as a Steelers fan, I think we are still a pretty good team. And the first player that I have on this list is quarterback Big Ben Roethlisberger. Now, last season, Big Ben, he passed for 5,129 passing yards, had 34 touchdowns. He also had 16 interceptions and completed 67% of his passes. Now, people can say Big Ben is declining. Yeah, he's declining, but he's still, even though he's declining, is a top 10 quarterback without a doubt. The fact that people don't even consider him a top 10 quarterback is freaking outrageous. I saw somebody try to say that Matthew Stafford was better than Big Ben. And that is not true. Big Ben is still top 10. And you also got to look at it this way. Think about it this way. If Big Ben wasn't forcing the ball to Antonio Brown, he would be way much better. It was a stat on ESPN a few weeks ago that I was watching about the Antonio Brown trade. When Big Ben was throwing to Antonio Brown, he had 15 touchdowns and 12 interceptions. But when he wasn't throwing to Antonio Brown, he had 16 touchdowns and only 4 interceptions. So that is a big stat to realize going into this year. And I still think Big Ben is a top 10 quarterback, like I said earlier. And I still think he's going to put up good numbers this season for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And when, to be honest, Big Ben is actually the motor that makes this Pittsburgh Steelers offense click. And we have a pretty good offensive line. So Big Ben should be in for a pretty good year this year as well. And to be honest, these last 4 seasons for Big Ben have been the best years of Big Ben's career because early on, Big Ben really wasn't known for destroying people through the air because we like to run the ball a little bit more when, a few years ago when Big Ben was like 5 years into the NFL. So now Big Ben is passing the ball a lot more now, new due to this new philosophy of the Pittsburgh Steelers Now we just want to throw the ball deep, get a lot of vertical deep plays and stuff like that. So Big Ben is having the best years of his career the last 5 seasons, and I think that's going to keep up this season. Next up, we have halfback James Conner, who went to the Pro Bowl last year, had 973 rushing yards, 12 touchdowns, had 5.5 yards per carry, 4.5 yards per carry, excuse me. Also had 497 receiving yards, 55 receptions, and 1 touchdown. James Conner surprised some people. He didn't really surprise me, and Steelers fans shouldn't have been surprised anyway because our offensive line is very good. According to Pro Football Focus last year, the Pittsburgh Steelers had the best offensive line in all of football, and I still think our offensive line is going to be even better now than what it was last year. And that's crazy to think because we had the best offensive line in football last year, and we still are going to have the best offensive line in all of football. I don't care about the Dallas Cowboys or whatnot. You can say what you want, but the Pittsburgh Steelers to me have the best offensive line in all of football. And James Conner is going to have an even better season than what he had last year because he missed a couple of games last season. If James Conner never missed those games that he missed, he would have had over 1,000 yards, and his stats would have been nearing Le'Veon Bell's stats from the previous season when Le'Veon Bell last played for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So James Conner is going to have an even better season than what he had last year. Next up, we have wide receiver Juju Smith-Schuster, who also went to the Pro Bowl last year, had a career year, had 1,426 receiving yards, 111 receptions, and 7 touchdowns. Juju Smith-Schuster is our number one wide receiver going in. Have a lot of confidence and a lot of faith in him as a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, and I think he's going to have a pretty good season like he had last year as well. Everybody loves Juju Smith-Schuster. I don't know why Antonio Brown was taking shots at him. I mean, how can you not love Juju Smith-Schuster, man? I love Juju Smith-Schuster, man. He's one of my favorite Pittsburgh Steelers players of all time. And I've been a Pittsburgh Steelers fan for 11 years. Since I first started watching football, I'm 17 years old now. And I'm a diehard Pittsburgh Steelers fan. And Juju Smith-Schuster is one of my favorite Pittsburgh Steelers players ever. I love Juju Smith Schuster. He's going to be a big part of this offense because he's going to be the number one wide receiver. And people are going to be like, oh, he's not going to be that good because Antonio Brown was double teamed and whatnot. Are you guys forgetting Juju Smith Schuster got double teamed a lot last year? Also, So he also got double teamed against Jacksonville Jaguars. That was a good game. So Juju Smith-Schuster, man, I don't believe that bull crap about him not going to be that good for Antonio Brown. Juju Smith-Schuster is still going to put up the same stats that he put up last season, and he's going to be one of the best wide receivers in the NFL in the coming couple of years. Next up, I have tight end Vance McDonald, who has 610 receiving yards, which was a career high. Also had 50 receptions, which was a career high, and had 4 touchdowns, which tied for his career high. And Vance McDonald, super athletic, man. When you go back to that Tampa Bay game, man, the way that he stiff armed that dude to the ground, man, very, very athletic. Had a very good season. I expect him to keep up the production. Those stats that I just said, 710 receiving yards, 50 receptions, 4 touchdowns, are pretty solid stats for a tight end. And I think Vance McDonald is going to have an even better season than what he had last year because, we're still trying to work in guys like Deontay Thompson and James Washington into the fold of things. So while we're waiting for those guys to get into rhythm and start getting some consistency, Vance McDonald has an opportunity to have an even better season than what he had last year. And I think he will. So the next guy, the last guy on the offense that I have is wide receiver James Washington. Now, James Washington had a very, very hard rookie season last year. It was very, very hard. I mean, he had 217 receiving yards, 16 receptions, and 1 touchdown. And he was targeted 38 times, and he only caught barely lower than 50% of those targets. So, I mean, James Washington, he struggled a lot as a rookie. And I think he's going to have a pretty good year this year because he's going to be that number 2 option, that number 2 wide receiver. I think he will beat out Deontay Thompson, who could also be that number 2 wide receiver. But I think James Washington is poised for a breakout year. Yeah, he struggled, but Big Ben still has a lot of confidence in him. The Pittsburgh Steelers coaching staff as a whole has a lot of confidence in him, and now this all season he's going to get more development, going to be an even better route runner. His hands should get a lot better, so he's going to have a pretty good season for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he really has no choice but to have a good season because Juju Smith-Schuster can't be our only wide receiver. We're going to have some more production out of that wide receiver position with the departure of Antonio Brown, and I believe James Washington is up to that task. So on the defense side of the ball, linebacker Devin Bush, who the Pittsburgh Steelers traded up with the Denver Broncos for the 10th overall pick to draft in this year's NFL draft. Devin Bush was the second best linebacker in this draft behind Devin White. I believe Devin Bush is going to be a candidate for a Defensive Rookie of the Year. A lot of people also do feel he will be a candidate as well because how the Pittsburgh Steelers defense is set up, it's going to give Devin Bush a lot of opportunities to roam, and I think he's going to have the pretty good year as well. Has pretty good speed, sideline to sideline. He to me is very athletic as well, like Devin White. But the thing about Devin Bush was he was a little bit undersized, So I still think Devin Bush is going to be a pretty good player in the NFL. And a lot of people will try to criticize us, try to give us these boo-boo draft grades. Somebody tried to give us a C+ because we drafted Devin Bush or a B- and stuff like that just because we traded up for him. Listen here. Okay, don't try to say what we did was the exact same thing the New York Giants did with drafting Daniel Jones because Devin Bush would not have been available at the 20th overall pick. The Bengals need a linebacker. The Green Bay Packers were looking at a linebacker. The Miami Dolphins were looking at linebackers. So Devin Bush most definitely would have not been on the board with our 20th overall pick. And the last time we traded for a defensive player in the first round of an NFL draft, that ended up being future Hall of Famer Troy Polamalu. So Devin Bush is going to have a pretty good season for the Pittsburgh Steelers this year. And it was a very good draft pick. And I mean, it's crazy how people gave us crazy grades. That grade was an A+. How long did we need an inside linebacker? We need an inside linebacker for the past 2 seasons now. And the fact that people are going to try to tell us that that was a reach of a pick. Woo, that junk just got me started on that was like a 2-minute rant. But next up we have linebacker TJ Watt. Now, TJ Watt, in my opinion, should have been a candidate for Defensive Player of the Year last year. He had a very good season. He had 68 tackles, 13 sacks, 6 forced fumbles, and 3 pass deflections. He also went to the Pro Bowl. I thought he was snubbed. I thought he should have been a finalist for Defensive Player of the Year because he had a very good season last year. And this year, I'm expecting him to keep up that production going into his third NFL season. I'm expecting him to keep up the production. I think he's going to have about the same stat line And hopefully next year he gets the respect he deserves and actually is discussed in that defensive player of the year discussion, because he should have been in that discussion last year. He was very, very good. Defensive end, Cameron Hayward, one of the best defensive ends in all of football. I think he's a top five defensive end. I don't know if anybody else agrees with me, but I think Cameron Hayward is a top 10 defensive end. He's been in the Pro Bowl for the last couple of seasons now. 51 tackles, 8 sacks, 1 forced fumble, 1 fumble recovery. Also had 3 pass deflections. Cameron Hayward, to me, like I said, is one of the best defensive ends in all of football. I'm not saying he's the best defensive end in all of football, but I'm saying he's one of the best in football. Next up, we have cornerback Joe Hayden. Now, Joe Hayden had one of his best seasons in his career, and he had 2 interceptions, 12 pass deflections, 1 forced fumble, also had 63 tackles. And Joe Hayden is our number one cornerback coming into this season, and he's going to be asked to step up in a huge way because this guy's going to be guarded with the task of having to defend Odell Beckham. So he said that he's up for the challenge. He's glad Odell Beckham is in the division because competition makes us better. But he better dominate against that competition because we need a win, man. I don't care how good the Browns is. As a Steelers fan, I don't want us losing to the Browns, man, because we haven't lost to the Browns in how many years? What, our record against the Browns? We've only lost to the Browns, what, like 4 times in the last decade or so. So Joe Hayden better step up this year, boy, because he has some competition in the division. I think he will live up to that. Now, the last player that we have, who is much needed, who we picked up in free agency, we have cornerback Steven Nelson, who was the Kansas City Chiefs' best cornerback on that secondary last year. That was one of the worst in all of football. And he had 68 tackles, 4 interceptions, 15 pass deflections, was very good. And he was very much well needed because Artie Burns was terrible. I don't know if we're going to keep him on the roster. I think before we trade him or release him, we should at least try him out at safety and see how he does there, because he was terrible. Gave him a touchdown every single time he took the field. Man, dude was terrible. Steven Nelson now gives us a very good cornerback tandem, and also our cornerback position is very good or very solid if you get rid of Artie Burns. Cody Sensabaugh was very solid as well. So our cornerback position is very solid now. Now we got Steven Nelson, Joe Hayden. So I like how cornerback position is looking going forward. And Steven Nelson, I think he's going to have a pretty good year for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I think he's going to improve that Pittsburgh Steelers secondary, man. Our defense is going to be very, very good this year. Probably the best that it has been in some times. I think we might actually see that still current defense return to the glory days, what it used to be way, way long ago. So let me know what you guys think about this list down in the comment section down below. Make sure to like the video and subscribe for more NFL videos and NFL content. And thanks for watching.